We're now going to start a new series from Shaykh Arif, still under the umbrella for the last 10 nights of the power of dua and closeness to Allah. Shaykh Arif will be speaking for the remaining nights of the month of Ramadan, and many of you will know him as he has spoken many times at Mahfil. He founded the Al-Mahdi Institute in 1993, where he serves as its director and senior lecturer. He was educated at the Madrasa Sayyid al-Khoy from 1985, and he graduated with honours. He's taught and he's furthered his studies in Qom, as well as had private training and research studies with leading scholars of Qom between 1990 and 1994. After founding the Al-Mahdi Institute, he continued his great training in Usul, al-Fiqh under Ayatul al-Amini, a student of Ayatul al-Khoy. We're very fortunate to have him today. So let's welcome him. Salat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya wal mursaleen wa alihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin. Amma ba'd, assalamu alaykum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dua is to call upon God. And there are certain principles in this state of calling upon God. It is not mere calling in the formalistic manner that we have become accustomed to calling God. It is an existential state within us. We cannot help but be in a state of wanting to connect with God. The reason for this is, as Allah says in the Quran, Allah ghani wa antum fuqara. Allah is needless, you are in a state of dire need. Our state of existence subsists through God. Our whole being is owed to God. The Quran depicts a picture that other than God is nothing of itself. It is established by God, and at every point it yearns God for its own completion and existence. And in this way, the name Allah, which means the one to which everything turns, serves two functions: to arrange and organize everything and become that pinnacle to which everything aspires to get. So dua is an existential state within us of wanting to complete ourselves. So the first thing dua brings to mind is the acknowledgement of this state of need to God. We need to awaken to the state of need to God, and with that awaken to a state of lack within ourselves and the completion that is found within God. The Blessed Prophet said, dua is the essence of devotion. If devotion means to give ourselves over to God and to allow the discretion of God to prevail over our own discretion at the bodily level, and to allow the choice of God to prevail over our choice at a psychological level, and to allow God to prevail over ourselves at that emotional level and the level of want, then at that point dua is the essence of devotion. What that means immediately is that dua is an acknowledgement that, oh Lord, I am in a state of lack, and my lack is to you. So the very first thing about dua is to awaken to God and to understand the state of existential need to God that we have. Now, why do we become mindless of God and of calling on to God? Because we feel a sense of false control. Since our lungs involuntarily breathe and the air is available, we forget that we are not controlling our lungs, and we forget that we have not balanced the ratio of air within the atmosphere. The fact that through choice and intention we can control our limbs, we forget the fact that the connections made from the brain going all the way to our organs and limbs are not in our control. So there is this false sense of control that we have. And in that false sense of control, we do not emphatically feel the need for God. And that is the danger point. Because what that does is, it gives us a false sense of control and security, and false sense of discretion. Thereby we become mindless of God. This is the very reason the Prophet said, even when you are picking up your staff in the morning, call upon God to assist you, so that you know, and you're emphasizing to your mind, that you are not needless of God. You are actually in need of God, and this need towards God is your means of finding God and completing yourselves. The Blessed Prophet, we hear in that beautiful story when Abu Lahab or Abu Jahl threw the intestines of a sheep upon him as he prayed, the heavens trembled. Either Jibrail or Mikael descended. I believe it's quoted as Jibrail. And he said, O Prophet, God pains at your state of poverty. He offers you the keys to the treasuries of the heavens and the earth. Take from it and feed yourself. The Blessed Prophet said to Jibrail, he said, I would much rather the day in which God fed me to thank Him, and the day in which He starves me to persevere. As if the Prophet was saying, in accordance with his prayer that he used to make, O Lord, do not allow me to feel control over my life, even for the blinking of an eye, lest I may become deluded into thinking that I have independency and I see myself needless of you. Always keep me in a place where I see my indebtedness and need to you, so that I do not become mindless of you. So the first thing we need to do, as far as dua is concerned, to awaken to the state of our poverty, to the state of God's completion, and to the state of our need to God. What that does is, it breaks our arrogance. And arrogance is the only veil that prevents us from getting to God. Now, the amazing thing is that the people who do pray to God are also engulfed at times in veils of arrogance. So their prayer is not a real prayer emanating from their souls, from that position of acknowledgement of need and awakening to God. It's a formalistic prayer that might not mean much. A call to God from within is a real call of an awakened soul. That, O Lord, my state is of nothingness. It is only you, and I'm totally beholden to you. That acknowledgement, therefore, is a cry of servitude and the essence. Arrogance prevents that genuine call. Now, the amazing thing about the world that God has created for human being is that He has fashioned the world in a way that the dynamics of this world are all geared to awakening us to God. Constant awakeners are being sent to us. And it's amazing. And the merciful God incessantly gives us many opportunities. Now the Imam acknowledges this in Dua Iftitah. He says, O Lord, when you call on to me, I turn my face away from you in arrogance, as if you have a need from me and I am obliging you by responding to you. But whenever I have a need to you and I call you without a pause, you respond to me. So everything in this world is geared towards awakening us to God. So for example, fear, anxiety, poverty, sickness, enemies, becoming defamed. All of these are instances that are there to awaken us to God and that we have towards God. Although they act in a very accidental manner, that we say, oh Lord, extend my life. We haven't gotten to the essence of what we want, but at least it's a first step towards God. Oh God, cure me. Remove my enemies. Be my aid. All of these are awakeness, but as I said, these are first steps into going towards the real thing. Now, if you look at how phenomenal God is, and how merciful He is, and how much He wants us to awaken to Him, we will be baffled. Look at the case of Nabi Nuh. Nabi Nuh called upon his people to acknowledge God. They adamantly rejected God. Nabi Nuh comes to a point of despair in which now he turns to God and says, oh Allah, if you spare them any more, they will not produce save your enemies, disbelievers, transgressive people. So Nabi Nuh at that point of frustration tells God, do not give them any more respite. Can you see this? Similarly, in the case of the Pharaoh, the Quran says, we did not send them any sign, but that it was bigger than the sign that went before it. All of these signs were given to them to awaken them. God perseveres with the Pharaoh and his people. He has killed the Israelites. He has enslaved them. He has mocked at God. He has called himself the great God. Allah says in one of the surahs in the 30th juz, the 30th part of the Quran, Moses, go to the Pharaoh, speak with him softly and calmly so that he may become mindful and become fearful of God. That is how God is persevering with the Pharaoh. He is sending awakeners. Now the Quran says we gave them this sign so that they may turn back, they may revert. To the extent that Moses had to cry out and says, oh Lord, give them so much that they forget you and then you destroy them. Hazrat Musa had become frustrated of the situation. Through anguish he cried out, he said, oh God, destroy them. But God was persevering. These are awakeners in our lives. Similarly, Quran gives this analogy that people are caught up in stormy waters. All of a sudden, danger surrounds them. They awaken to God. And they implore God, crying out to Him, say, oh God, sail us to the shores of safety and we will not associate with you. Of course, what they do subsequently is another thing. But at that point, that veil parts, that existential state emerges. There is that existential state within us of acknowledging our lack and acknowledging God's completion and acknowledging that He is the only direction. It is existentially inbuilt within the system, whether we like it or not, that we awaken to God. As Rumi says in one of his poetries, trying to awaken his audience, he says, oh man, in your speech, in your silence, in your action, in your inaction and pauses, in all of these phases of your being, you are crying out the song of your God. There is an existential cry within you, awaken to it. Now this deep-seated cry that is within us, for God that is often veiled due to the sense of false security and arrogance of control, is depicted in the Quran by the relationship that we all have uniquely with our God, depicted by the word Rabb, Lord. That is the existential state of connection with God, where God does not need a definition, nor does a religion need to come and inform us or introduce us with God. It's a natural cry within. We need to open up to that and acknowledge God. Maybe we can give an example. In a state of desperation or amazement or wonder, we cannot resist this cry. It comes out, "Oh Lord." Like Bilqis, the queen of Sheba, when she was taken by Suleiman into his palace, she saw what appeared to be a stream, and quite a deep one, and they had to cross through it in order to not to get the hem of her garment wet. She lifts her garment. Suleiman says to her, it's an illusory effect created by the reflection of the light from the gemstones. She was filled with so much awe and wonder. She cried out, "Rabbi, my Lord, I have been oppressive to my soul, and I surrender to the God of the worlds with Suleiman." So the first thing about dua is to awaken to that deep existential state that I am in a state of dire need and lack. God is my completion, and my need is towards my God. And that need is in every instance, every divisible moment. That is the first principle of dua, acknowledgement of need to God. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.